Let's try this again. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Week 5 edition of Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard. Welcome back. We had the Giants-Cowboys a week ago. We had a nice little break there, almost like a mini bye week coming off a 2015 Giants defeat to Dallas. And it doesn't get any easier for Big Blue. 1-3 going to the Pacific Northwest. I'll be on a plane in less than 48 hours out to Seattle to see the Giants take on the Seattle Seahawks, and really eager to talk to you guys about what this matchup looks like, what information I have about the Giants, and want to be able to, of course, be a safe space for a lot of you Giants fans who are frustrated, have a lot of questions about the team, and are really eager to see the franchise and the organization turn this around and not have this look like the same old Giants, the same old situation where other teams are battling out for the division and the Giants are looking up from the basement. That is where they sit right now in the NFC. That is where they sit in the division. But I come with a glass half full as we prepare for Giants Seahawks. And this is a team, obviously, that has had its way as far as the final scores and the results with the Giants the last 2 years. 24-3 last year at MetLife Stadium. That, of course, was the night of the Daniel Jones pick six to Devon Witherspoon and Brian Daboll tossing the tablet on the ground. And then the year before, the Giants lost 27-17 in Seattle at Lumen Field out there. I was there live watching that as Richie James' two fumbles on muff punts cost the Giants in those games. Silver lining for you is this. Last year in that 24-3 loss, the score was only 14-3. There was a minute left in the third quarter, and the Giants offense was knocking on the door. So if Daniel Jones throws a touchdown pass instead of a pick six there, you're looking at a 14-10 game going into the fourth quarter with the Giants at home. And I say this because I think in your memory, it's what a disaster, what a terrible game. I don't know if anybody remembers this. Drew Lock actually threw a touchdown pass in that game. Geno Smith missed a series, and Drew Lock hit, I believe, Noah Fant for an explosive downfield touchdown, catch and run there. But the final score didn't reflect how tight the actual score was for most of the game. Obviously, the Giants allowed 11 sacks in that game on offense, and their offense was pitiful as far as its production. But I think important to remember, really wasn't over until Daniel Jones threw that interception. The year before, even, the score was, I didn't remember this. The score in that game in Seattle was 10-10 with 6 minutes left in the third. And it was 13-13 Giants-Seahawks with 11 minutes left. Now, the key in these two matchups so far has been turnovers. The Giants have lost the turnover battle with the Seattle Seahawks 6-1 in these last two meetings with them. And that has accounted really for the disparity in the results. Now, the good news for the Giants is the Seahawks actually have a -3 turnover differential, which is worse than the Giants, -2. So comparable. They've both committed 6 turnovers. And then the Giants have 4 takeaways while the Seahawks defense has 3. Obviously, the Giants offensive line at the moment looks like it would not be the sieve that it was last year when they played the Seahawks. And with the max protect scheme that Brian Daboll has been running as well, that they're going to have enough help. Plus, even though it looks like the Seahawks could get some players back on their injury report this week, there is still a likelihood that Seattle's not going to be full strength up front. So those are all the positives. Obviously, one of the negatives, the obvious negative is doesn't look like Malik Nabers is going to play in this game. Nothing has been announced officially as we talk here on October 3rd, 2024, around 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. But my understanding, talking to some people around the Giants in the last couple of days, is that this is not like, remember Darius Slayton getting a concussion, being in the protocol, and then being able to progress at a steady and rapid rate to get out of it by the following week in the following game. This is not that. This is not your standard got his bell rung and now feels better right away and is working his way back. As far as I understand, as recently as Wednesday, Nabers was still experiencing some symptoms. So I think when Brian Daboll said on Thursday that he was progressing, my read on that, my informed read on that is that Thursday may have been Nabers' first day symptom-free, or is at least his first day symptom-free since the way he felt on Wednesday. So what that would indicate to me is that it would, it is, in my opinion, he will not play in this game. And so that opens up an opportunity for Jalin Hyatt, which we will talk more about during this live podcast. But it's so it's so great to be with you guys. We took Monday night off to just catch a breather. And normally we do these Talkin Ball with Pat Leonards on Mondays, Thursdays, and after every Giants home and away game. Of course, you can count on me to be there from Lumen Field in Seattle, live, Talkin Ball live after the Giants play the Seahawks on Sunday to break it down from the stadium overlooking the field there on the waterfront in Seattle. So really quickly, want to tell you about our great sponsors here, and then we'll get right to the queue and to the questions as always. Thank you for making this community here what it is, and for always making these chats and these conversations so enjoyable and so lively, despite the fact that the team is scoring 14 or 15 points a game and only 1-3 through 4 weeks. So the sponsors, as you know, MyBookie recently partnered with Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard here on the Believe Network, brought to you by the Believe Network here and on the PL on NFL YouTube channel. And MyBookie is actually, this is a great night to be on MyBookie if you don't have an account. They have risk-free Thursdays, and Mike Evans, I believe, was one of the risk-free bets. So no risk there. 2 touchdowns for Mike Evans and counting right now. So if you don't have an account there already, use the link in any of my social media profiles and use the promo code PATSPICKS, PATSPICKS. And if you use that Pat's Picks promo, you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. So if you want to win this football season, use MyBookie, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. If you already have an account, you can sign up for their new loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus. Great way to earn and unlock exclusive promotions. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. You see right here over my shoulder. A natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Personally, it felt a post-workout like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today and use the promo code right here, TalkinBall25. Or click on the QR code on your screen and you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month supply cost is only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural coffee. Sorry about that. Estate 98 Coffee is an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. So it takes you 10 seconds to make an iced coffee, only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte. And another promo code here, estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. So MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Estate 98 Coffee. Remember, pretty soon here, we will have our Estate 98 Coffee trivia giveaway. So I will have a Giants trivia question, and whoever answers the question first in the queue will win a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. All right, let's get to the questions. Ken says, I would take either one of these quarterbacks tonight over anybody we have, referring to Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield. I do think the entire operation is better as well as the quarterback. But certainly, listen, Ken, the bottom line is this, and I'm not even just saying this about Daniel Jones. I'm saying this about the Giants offense, and Daniel Jones is a part of that. But frankly, it sounds obvious, but even in a game like the last game the Giants played against the Dallas Cowboys, where a lot of people came out of that game saying Daniel played efficiently. He made a lot of good throws. He made a lot of good plays. You need to get the ball in the end zone. The Giants don't get in the end zone enough. It could be a play call on one play. It could be a misfire by the quarterback on another. It could be a drop pass by a receiver. But the Giants don't get in the end zone enough. And this game was, I believe, 24-17 at halftime. So, that just shows you, like, this is the kind of game so far. It doesn't look like the Giants are even capable of playing it. And so that, Ken, I think is what you're speaking to right off the bat. Barb says, happy Thursday night football. Same to you, Barb. Yeah, we go live at halftime of all of these Thursday night games. And so I actually have the iPad on right next to me. So if you see me peeking, I'm peeking back at the iPad to catch some highlights and kind of stay abreast of the scores and the ongoings in these games, because we know no quiet nights in the NFL, right? Patrick says, smash that like button. Thank you so much, Patrick, for reminding everybody. If you're already a subscriber, great. If you aren't, please subscribe to the YouTube channel here. And also, if you're listening on audio, subscribe to the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast on audio. So that's Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, wherever you get your pods. I appreciate the support. And the like button while we are live is a great way to let other fans know that we're doing this. We're here. We're talking Giants. We're talking NFL. We're talking about the Seahawks matchup coming up. And I have information coming straight from the locker room, from the players, from the organization, from executives, from coaches, because I am the Giants beat writer and NFL columnist for the New York Daily News. I've been doing that since 2016. I'm in the Giants locker room every day, and I'm bringing it directly to you. The information I have, the insight I have, the ability to dissect what this team is doing, where it's going, where it has come from, and the context of how ultimately we're all here to discuss ideas of ways for the Giants to get better and to put a better, more interesting, and more successful product on the field is obviously always what this is pointing towards. And being harsh and critical when it's called for, and praising, hopefully, when it is due. But hit those like buttons, subscribe, and for those of you who are new, if you purchase a super chat or a super sticker on our chat, that is a way to have your comment or question elevated to the top of the thread. So if you purchase a super chat or super sticker, and with your comment, that'll elevate it to the top of the thread. I will address it immediately. And it's a great way to support the channel. And also for you to have, let's say the chat and the queue is getting long and you can't hang around and you want something answered and you want to know firsthand from somebody who's in the Giants locker room consistently, a nugget about one of your favorite players or an injury update or whatever the case may be. That's one thing we'll talk about too. The latest on all these injury reports. The Seahawks injury report just came out. The Giants injury report just came out today. And there were updates with some of the key players that the Giants will either have on the field or not. So we'll continue to go over all of that. All right, let's see. Barb says, Yankee fan, but a Mets fan tonight for my mom. That's nice. Good of you to support, Barb. I wonder if it comes back to you, the other way from Mets fans in your life. And because usually there's that line drawn in the sand, right? But very cool of you to honor your mom, to root for them, even though you're a Yankee fan. Yeah, I'm more excited definitely for the Yankees baseball to start up, to see if they can, with this group, get over the hump and get it done. Very interested to see that. And but the Mets bringing some interesting developments and some juice as we await the pinstripes to get underway here in the postseason. D-Kit notes that last year the Giants allowed 11 sacks in that game. Yes, they did. 11 sacks to the Seahawks, no doubt. Barb says, really hope Nabers gets cleared. yeah, like I said, my best read is that it is tracking towards him not being cleared, based on the symptoms persisting into this week. But we will obviously see. Hopefully, even if he misses this game, he will be, trending in the right direction coming out of the Seattle game, if nothing else. D-Kid says, so Pat, through the first 25% or so of the season, how do you feel about this year's draft class so far? That's a good question. Let's go over the Giants rookie class quickly. And I think it's very easy to say as we start with Malik Nabers that the number 6 overall pick out of LSU being a top of the NFL production-wise as a wide receiver is certainly an elite talent. I do think he can be a cleaner route runner, which would obviously continue to make him even more dangerous. And, I think sometimes he doesn't even really have to because of his explosiveness, his ability to change direction, his run after catch ability. Like, he doesn't have to be polished, I think, in a lot of what he does as a route runner at times. So I think that's something that'll be interesting to see him continue to try to hone in on. Obviously, that's nitpicking based on his elite and explosive production. He has had a drop here and there, though I do think one thing I've noticed as I've covered the NFL and dug into the stats on this throughout the years, typically the guys who get targeted all the time around the league also end up leading the NFL in drops, so guys like Travis Kelce and, Calvin Johnson always used to have a problem with drops, a bigger problem than people ever really talked about. But again, if you're getting 13 targets a game and other guys are getting 4 or 5, you're going to end up usually with more drops. But you'd like Nabers to clean some of those up. Still, that said, 35 catches, 386 yards, 3 touchdowns in 4 games. Not too shabby, to say the least. Of course, feels like a little bit like a consolation prize right now with Washington getting a quarterback, and a quarterback who is already a star and being in first place in the division with Jaden Daniels rolling. But Nabers clearly a building block piece. But we'll see as the losing continues, how that will get handled by him, by the team in general. But obviously, we wish him health and a speedier recovery. Tyler Nubin, the safety, second round pick out of Minnesota. I think Nubin, he has played every snap on defense. I think you're eager to see him make more of an impact. I think you could say that a lot about a lot of guys on defense. The angle he took on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown was a very poor angle. So while Deonte Banks also was burnt on that play and then did not seem to finish that play, he got no help from Nubin, the rookie safety behind him. That was a key mistake by Nubin. He'll learn from it. He'll grow from it. I do like him as a person, as a leader, and as a player. And I think as a guy who was a ball hawk in the Big Ten in his college career, that's what I want to start seeing from Tyler Nubin, is some ball hawking. Drew Phillips, the 3rd round slot corner out of Kentucky, has looked good when he's been on the field. He's just struggled to stay on the field. He was upgraded to limited participation today, Thursday, after a DNP on Wednesday. So some progress in the right direction there. Dory Jackson was upgraded to limited as well. Not sure if that means he's going to make this game. I do think he is feeling pretty good. And, you have to like his tackling. If nothing else, like, I think his attitude on the field, the way he plays, his tackling is excellent. And I think the Giants do lose something from not having him on the field. And then to round it all out, I would say Theo Johnson, the 4th round pick, tight end out of Penn State. Been a disappointment. Another kid I really like, has been a non-factor as a pass catcher in the receiving game. I think that's really not helping the Giants' ability to spread the ball around. You're seeing the target share being overloaded on Nabers and Wan'Dale Robinson in that regard. Theo Johnson, though, just, growing pains and not the production that you're looking for so far. Tyrone Tracy, the 5th round pick out of Purdue. He's arguably my favorite draft pick because I do think he has a lot of potential. I think that with probably a bigger opportunity this week with Singletary either out or limited, do think it's possible that Singletary misses this game. We'll see about that. But Tracy definitely due for more of a workload. I think he can handle it. I think he's a good player, a dual threat. I do like him. And then Darius Muasau, 6th-round linebacker out of UCLA. We'll see. I mean, we've seen one game on defense, really, mostly special teams. I think you're probably getting what you drafted him to be there, and that's fine. But nothing more, nothing less. So that's fine. Ken Peters says not a chance that they fly Nabers 5 hours. Yeah, no, and like I said, how he's feeling, I think, is the biggest issue. H5000 says fair quarterback play, below average running and run blocking, below average tight end performance, below average secondary and pass rush. No way we are a QB away. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it, H5000. The Giants are not a quarterback away. I agree completely. Quarterback does tend to be a salve or kind of like an airbrush on your roster at times, and does make a lot look a lot better and can kind of lift up your weaker parts of your team and your offense with his play for sure. You know, it's almost like a cologne or some deodorant on the other things that are causing issues or could normally undercut a lesser QB. But I agree with you, H5000. I think the Giants are not a quarterback away. I think that's very clear. I think that whenever Brian Daboll's job security comes up, the reason that Joe Shane's does as well, and the reason I bring it up when we're talking about Brian Daboll's is, you know, I think the blame belongs in both chairs. I think the general manager's roster is not strong at all. I think it's weak. And I think that in addition to that, you know, you look around the league right now, and I know everybody's there. These are all different players, different situations, but Sam Darnold, look at what Kevin O'Connell is doing with him in Minnesota. Baker Mayfield, look at his resurgence as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. You know, look at the way, I mean, credit to Brock Purdy, but Kyle Shanahan takes Mr. Irrelevant 7th-round pick. Guy's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, more consistent, right? Brian Daboll, that's, you know, he has Daniel Jones, and you can point out the 100+ quarterback rating and all that, but you need to score points as an offense. And so roster's part of that. But, you know, teams like the Vikings are finding a way. Ken Peters says, Pat, can you confirm if this is Nabers' first concussion of his career? I do not know that, Ken. That would surprise me. I think technically I'm not being I'm not talking down here when I say this. I think if it is his first, it would just be his first diagnosed concussion, if that makes sense, because, you know, definitely these football players sustain concussions, whether people tell them they have one or not. Sometimes that's just the ugly truth of the game and of the sport. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Is this the first? I mean, to me, it looked like he was knocked out on the field. It looked like he was unconscious. So at least for a brief period. So, you know, that's scary. A2, what's up? He says, destroying your franchise wide receiver because Daniel Jones can't do anything but focus on one guy. How much longer do we have to endure this nonsense? Oof. I don't see it as Daniel only focusing on him, A2. I see it as they're one-dimensional, with Malik being that one dimension. You know, they don't have parts of their offense that spread the defense out enough to take attention or to suddenly take over from Nabers as the main piece or the key to a different drive or something like that. Like the closest thing to it is Devin Singletary, but they don't have a strong, consistent running game even with him. And Singletary is a good NFL player. He's good as a complement, though. Like if he's going to be your guy week in and week out, you're looking at the rushing numbers for the Giants. And as I've said many times before, the last time Singletary was Brian Daboll's running back, he never ran the ball in Buffalo. Matthew Kelly says, hi, Pat. What are the chances that Seattle sits some players considering they play the Niners next Thursday, give their injured players more time to heal up? Yeah, Matthew, that I think all of that definitely, including the Lions game and then the Giants game and then the Niners game, as D Kid also saying here, tough stretch for Seattle playing Monday, Sunday, Thursday. Yeah, no doubt. Schedule makers really messed up there. But I was thinking about this watching the Lions Seahawks game, and you have those conversations, but it's dangerous to live that way. So, in other words, you know, were their guys, the four defensive linemen, basically the Seahawks' top four defensive linemen, all sat out the Lions game with injuries. Now, were they sitting out the Lions game and then healing up to be able to play in the Giants game and the Niners game? You can't logistically reverse it and talk about it that way. In other words, what I mean is they all wanted to play against the Lions and beat the Lions, and they needed everybody that they could use and that they could dress to do it. And yet there were plenty of big names on the Seahawks, including Leonard Williams, a former Giant, who just weren't able to go. So I think they have those convos as far as, like, for example, let's just hypothetically say Leonard Williams is going to miss the Giants game too. Part of the conversation with that player would be, if we not just that we're playing the Niners in that game, but more like if we give you physically 4 more days to heal, right? Will that then make you game ready and at no or less risk for re-injuring or aggravating, right? Like that, those are the kind of conversations that happen in regards to that. Like it's specific to, of course, the player's health. And so while we're on that subject, just so you guys know, Seahawks injury report update. So the noteworthy updates today: Byron Murphy, D tackle, hamstring, did not practice for a second straight game day. He also missed the Lions game, so doesn't look like he's going to be back. Tyrell Dodson, their linebacker, he was upgraded to limited. Boye Mafe, one of their pass rushers, he was upgraded to limited on Thursday from DNP Wednesday. And then Julian Love, the former Giants safety and the standout Seahawks safety, he was upgraded from limited on Wednesday to full on Thursday. So it looks like Julian Love's going to play. DK Metcalf and Kenneth Walker, two of their top offensive weapons, were actually downgraded from Wednesday to Thursday. Metcalf with a hand, Kenneth Walker with an oblique. They were downgraded to limited today after Thursday's practice. So that's something to watch. Those are the most noteworthy updates or differences or changes in the injury report. I will say this: if you look at their defensive linemen, so it's Leonard Williams, Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe, and Byron Murphy. Those guys all missed the Lions game. Okay. Now, Murphy looks like he's still not going to play, but Nwosu has been limited the last 2 days. Mafe was upgraded to limited, and Leonard Williams was limited the past 2 days with a rib injury. Now, this does not mean all three of those guys are going to be back. A rib injury for a defensive tackle or defensive end like Leonard Williams, that could be a tough one even to come back after missing a game. But it sounds like they will get at least 2 of those 4 back based on reading what their injury report looks like. So if that's the case, then that makes them a little bit more difficult. Obviously, Julian Love would have been a big loss if he wasn't able to play for the Seahawks, but he's back. Interesting note: I will be appearing on Friday on the All Day podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. That is hosted by Brett. I believe his last name is DeVerne, and Lofa Tatupu, former USC standout, former NFL player. I gave him a go Irish at the start of the interview, so that was fun. But Lofa actually says in the interview, he said, "Hey, Pat, thank you to you and everybody out in New York for giving us not only 2 of your better players in Julian Love and Leonard Williams, but for letting us have 2 of your better leaders." And that one really stung, and I think should sting every Giants fan, because that is really what happened there. Is the Giants lost, especially with Love, veterans who guys will follow. Chris, what's up? Thank you so much for the super sticker there. Chris says, would say Washington was quarterback last year. See now. I think what you mean there is Washington looked like a quarterback away last year, and now you can see that they were, I think is what you're saying there. I think, a good example, like somebody brought up the other day, we were just talking, some of us are covering the Giants, and one person was discussing how the Texans were able to go pretty quickly from a team that was drafting high all the time and didn't have a really good roster, and that nobody really felt highly or great about the team that they had on the field. And it was like suddenly they got CJ Stroud and they took off. Now, Stroud did obviously elevate a team that people thought differently of into something else completely. So that part's true, but their roster was not as barren and as bad or weak or thin and lacking in depth as the Giants is right now, because you have to remember they were able to trade Deshaun Watson for all of those first round picks, and the ammo they had to draft, and then some of the players they acquired, both in their higher rounds and their mid rounds, kind of really made that a different type of rebuild than what we've seen from the Giants so far. They had a lot of ammo there. So, that's why some situations are different than others. Chris says, my biggest problem is I don't like that we just don't value running back. Chris, that's a really good point. I was talking to my editor at the Daily News about this yesterday, about how, so look at the Minnesota Vikings, for example. Aaron Jones has helped transform that offense and support Sam Darnold to play the way he's been able to play. Because first of all, that is an offense and a scheme, right? This Kyle Shanahan tree, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, Mike McDaniel. Even though these are modern coordinators and, 2024 NFL offenses, they rely heavily on how they marry the run to the pass and how effectively they do run the ball. They recognize the value of running the ball, particularly when the playoffs arrive, right? And so, it's interesting that the Giants, of course, with the positional value argument, Joe Shane stands his ground, doesn't want to invest in running back with Saquon Barkley. And yet you look at Aaron Jones and how valuable he is in Minnesota. The Eagles, of course, if, being down all of those weapons, Lane Johnson, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, did not look like the same offense with Saquon, but you can see with a better offensive line and with those skill players on the field, how much that top running back augments and accentuates all of the strengths of the offense, right? Even Jordan Mason in San Francisco, is that really an example of running backs don't matter? Or is that an example of the Niners being smart evaluators and prioritizing, making sure they had a really good backup running back to Christian McCaffrey and doing their own work on that, right? Those are just a few examples. I mean, of course, the Baltimore Ravens are a great example of a team that knows its strengths and knows the running game is going to be a huge part of what they and their quarterback do. And they lean completely into it and end up bludgeoning a team like the Buffalo Bills, who were playing like one of the best teams in football before the Ravens ran all over them. So Chris, I think a lot of it is every team's different, and you can build your team. Some teams need certain players more than they need others, or more than other teams need that type of player, I guess is what I would say. And to prefer a pass first offense is one thing. To not think running backs are valuable to an offense, though, is a myopic view of things. And also, I think it reflects that conversation and that decision became more personal than, even at times like a business decision is the way it looked like to me by the end of it from watching Hard Knocks and doing all the reporting that I did on that. And those are just some examples, but that's a really good point, Chris. And I've said this many times, but I'll say this again. The way to give Daniel Jones the best weapons he's had yet was not to take away his best offensive player and then replace him with one. It was to add a great player to the great player you already had and then create that, right? I mean, and forget that we're talking about the Giants. Isn't that just a logical statement? Like, for example, tonight you're watching, tonight you're watching the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Bucs, let Mike Evans go in order to spend big money on a running back or on an explosive running back that they felt like would change their offense for the better and they wanted to be more run focused, would that, even if that player was productive, you wouldn't be stacking that new talent on top of Mike Evans and augmenting your offense. You would be replacing him and possibly worse off for it because you were losing a great player. And so not that Saquon's had the production that Mike Evans has had in his career, but my point is when you're building a team, you have to consider how defenses are going to be able to attack you, defend you, what guys on your team and on your offense are forcing the defense to change their game plan, to key on you, right? And Saquon Barkley's absence from this team means that defenses can key on Malik Nabers and no one else. And how about, listen, this bears repeating. The Giants in their last game rushed the ball 24 times for 26 yards. That is 1.1 yards a carry on the ground. So brutal. And that's where we're at. Daniel Hirsch. Hey, Daniel, he says, so funny after Daboll gave you the death stare. Now he fakes being nice, calls you by name during his press conference answers. Little bit of a roller coaster there, Daniel. Not going to lie, those interactions. I think this is, though, again, it's not personal. This is born out of the pressure, the fact that this is spiraling. You could argue that it's spiraling slowly. It's kind of like a slow drip, right? Because like the Cowboys, it wasn't 40-0. It was 20-15. They did win in week 3 against Cleveland. Felt like if they made some smarter decisions in a couple key areas, kicking game, they could have beaten Washington, who's now 3-1, kind of the darlings of the early season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But averaging 15 points per game and about to play the Seahawks, Bengals, Eagles, and Steelers in this next set of 4 weeks. And I think that roller coaster of how these press conferences get handled and those interactions, Daniel, I think is born largely out of the pressure that is and the heat that is rising on his seat. And I think Daboll, when you see him trying to be more helpful like that in press conferences, that's really astute observation by you, by the way. But when you see Daboll doing things like that, that is, I think, the coach trying to make an effort to kind of correct the way he has handled things in the past. Namely, like this, for example, was coming on the heels of Daboll being asked after their 1-3 start what his team has improved on so far. And his answer, he refused to give any answers. And eventually, when he did say something, he said that their fundamentals and technique were better. And not sure that went over too well. So time to open it up a little bit. Chris says we also could draft a 2nd or 3rd round running back instead of paying Saquon. Yeah, so you're not just talking about Saquon investment and free agent money. You're also just talking about showing that you believe the position is important. Right. No, for sure. I hear you. They did give some money to Devin Singletary, right? So it's not like they didn't. In fact, they gave Singletary a lot of money for a general manager who says that he doesn't want to pay running backs, they gave Singletary a lot of money, right? For that being their opinion of running backs. That's what I would say. So, yeah, I agree with you. All right, time for our Estate 98 Coffee Giants Trivia Challenge. This one's a tough one, not going to lie, but I was fascinated by it. So remember, this will be the Estate 98 Trivia Giants question. What happens is I'll ask you the question. The first person to enter it in the queue, so to enter the correct answer in the in our chat, wins a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. All right. So here's the stat. So the Giants' longest run against the Dallas Cowboys last Thursday was only 5 yards. So Devin Singletary and Daniel Jones both had 5-yard runs. Like I said, they only had 26 yards rushing as a team, 1.1 a carry. So they didn't have a rush over 5 yards in the game. Okay. It was the shortest long run in a game for the Giants since 1999. Who was the player who had a 5-yard rush against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in September 1999 as the longest run of that game? So again, longest Giants running play against the Cowboys in last week's loss was 5 yards by both Singletary and Jones. It was their shortest long run of a game since 1999 against the Buccaneers, who had a 5-yard rush to lead his team as the longest run in the game in that 1999 Giants game. This is in the weeds. I hope somebody can get it without looking it up, because obviously I'm sure people will be racing to look this up if nobody gets it first. But this is so obscure. I thought it was great. Let's see. Baby Fat Davidson, no. Charles Way, no. Ward, no. Ken Peters says Rodney Hampton, no. Joe Montgomery, no. Collins, no. Gary Brown, no. I keep guessing though. This is so obscure. All right, so keep answering. I'll dip back into those answers as we get through the queue. All right. Elias says, shout out to the Mets, a New York team who turned it around, hoping it's us next. Intel says the Giants will be 1-4 and the Daniel Jones experiment is almost over. Thank God. Jack says, Hawks fan here. Good luck on Sunday. Jack, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Let me know if you have any Seahawks questions, Giants questions, NFL questions. We talk it all here, Jack. Thanks for being here. Elias says, back to the Giants. I've heard some things about the Seattle O-line being subpar. Would you say you expect our D-line to have success, at least on paper? They should. Jack, the Seahawks fan, agrees. He said, yes, our O-line is trash. Elias, that's an interesting question. I think that what I saw on Monday night is that the Seahawks did a good job of running the ball against the Lions when they committed to it. Early on, they got away from it. And then I saw Mike McDonald, the head coach, he said at halftime that they needed to run the ball better. And once they committed to it, Kenneth Walker was really doing some damage there. I also think that Geno Smith was showing that he is mobile, and we knew this already, but he can move to make a play. So yes, I think the Giants pass rush has an opportunity against Seattle's offensive line, but I also think that Seattle's weapons in both the run and the pass game makes them multiple and difficult to defend. Like I said, Seahawks are -3 turnover ratio, 6 turnovers so far this season. And also they're among the league leaders. I think they're top 5 in penalties as a team, including they're tied for the league lead in holding penalties with 9. So, if there is a Seahawks big play on Sunday, look at the line of scrimmage before you get upset about the play, because there might be a yellow flag on the field. Brett says, Pat, is the whole Seahawks team injured? I bet we win. Hyatt, 2 touchdowns, 164 yards. So A lot of injuries for sure. We went over those injuries already. If you have any questions about specifics or you missed, let me know those. But yes, they are banged up, and they do have these, what is it, 3 games in 10 days or something like that. Absurd scheduling. Glad you brought up Jalin Hyatt. Doesn't have a catch yet this year, has been in the doghouse, barely played, and of course, yelled out at practice. Jordan Raanan from ESPN was the first to report that. Yelled out at practice, why don't you just trade me if you're not going to, use me late in the summer? And with Nabers not expected to play, Hyatt should get his opportunity. I talked to him the other day. He said Daniel Jones throws a beautiful deep ball. I can't wait if my number is called to get out there and make plays. He said that obviously he wants to be on the field. He doesn't like not playing a lot. But he said our explosive plays are there. We have the ability as an offense, and they will come soon. We will hit them soon. So not a guarantee, but confidence from the second year, former Biletnikoff Award winner as a top receiver in college football. And if you take a look at my story in the New York Daily News website, I went into great detail. I went back and watched all of Jalin Hyatt's explosive plays in the pass game in his rookie season of 2023. And I think you'll be interested to see where they lined him up, how they used him. Actually, it was interesting. Darren Waller was taking attention away from Hyatt, streaking down the field often in the middle of the field, running kind of deep ins, looping around, just getting himself in that area in the second level behind the linebackers and forcing the safeties down or the linebackers not to follow Jalin Hyatt to a certain depth. And really, obviously, it calls for strong pass protection to get a receiver downfield and to make those throws. But I found it very interesting also to remind myself that, listen, Darius Slayton's a more well-rounded receiver, better all-around receiver than Jalin Hyatt is right now. He deserves to be playing. Like, I don't sit here and say, Darius Slayton shouldn't be playing and it should be at the expense of Jalin Hyatt playing. I don't believe that. I think, though, that an offense that doesn't create explosive plays needs explosive players to try to make more plays. And the Giants are one of only 5 teams in the league right now that don't have a pass play of 40 yards or more on their resume through 4 weeks. They only have 2 plays of over 30 yards so far. Devin Singletary had a 43-yard run in Cleveland to ice that game. And then Malik Nabers had the 39-yard catch against Dallas when he put that backup corner in the blender there at the line of scrimmage with kind of the, as Saquon always calls it, the hezzy. But the Giants aren't creating explosive plays. So Jalin Hyatt, not only did he create explosive plays last year, he had a 40-yard or more catch from all 3 Giants quarterbacks last year. So Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, and Tommy DeVito all hit him for at least one pass 40 yards or more down the field. And the Giants have none as an offense this year, and Hyatt hasn't been playing. So at the very least, it's worth it to see what you have there. And so Hyatt's been ready. Listen, this was a draft pick Joe Schoen traded up to get. And so it's very strange, of course, that you have Darius Slayton talking trade in the spring. You have Jalin Hyatt talking about it in the summer. You wonder, which one will they trade? Is it possible both, is it possible Hyatt could be traded instead of Slayton? Slayton could be traded instead of Hyatt. It's just so interesting that this could be viewed as, yes, an opportunity for a young player. It also could be an audition, right? With a team like the Kansas City Chiefs needing a receiver, things like that. I mean, who knows? Who knows with a player who is not content? Like, to me, this is as much hey, can this guy help ignite our offense? It's also, if he does make a big play, it's the Giants kind of maybe tapping their desk saying, is somebody going to call and offer something for this guy? In my opinion, based on where they stand. But obviously, if you're the Giants, you're not in a position to get rid of young good players either. D-Kit says Jones has an opportunity to lead this team to an improbable win. Make big throws and plays. He can change the narrative immediately by scoring points on the road and be the reason we win. Yeah, I mean, for sure, a win like this, listen, winning on the road in Cleveland, despite how bad Deshaun Watson is, I still didn't think the Giants were going to do it. They did it. So they have won on the road. But this is a different animal where they're going. The fact that the Seahawks, I do think, look like yes, they're banged up. Yes, they're playing these 3 games in 10 days and -6 turnover ratio, a lot of penalties, but they have a lot of weapons and they can score points. They pretty much average 10 points more per game than the Giants. I think D-Kit makes the point, which is Daniel Jones can make a point by turning this offense into something else, which is, like a game like this, Falcons-Bucks, 24-17 at halftime, points on the board in the second half, excitement, confidence. Kirk Cousins has 351 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game, right? Sometimes you just need your $40 million a year quarterback to put you on his back. That said, now listen, I'm not defending Daniel in the sense of making excuses for him or for anybody. I'm not doing that because, yes, guys had drops. He also missed some deep throws. Everybody was responsible for the loss. I'm not sitting here defending him as like franchise QB versus some grand argument. But they need to be able to run the ball a little bit. There can't be 0 running game. It can't be 1 yard a carry in the running game. Like it just can't be that way, So that's not sustainable for Daniel Jones and this offense to flourish. Also, without Malik Nabers, as much as Hyatt is explosive and as much as that opens up opportunities for other people, with Singletary banged up and possibly not playing, and Nabers, in my opinion, looking like he's going to be out, where do the targets go? Wan'Dale obviously has gotten a lot of targets, Wan'Dale Robinson. But where are those points coming from? I think is the question I would ask. You're right, D-Kid. If Daniel Jones did it, it would be pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Let's see. Brett says Wan'Dale runs 0 routes under 10 yards this week. Oh, so you think down the field for Wan'Dale? That'd be interesting. Daniel says Dable looks stressed. Yes, he is, and he's been. I told you the atmosphere was tense from the start of the season. Elias says Jaden Daniels being a guy Dable wanted to trade up for makes me slightly more confident in his ability to pick a quarterback alongside Shane, assuming Dable stays. See, I don't understand this because, so first of all, yes, we know that they like Jaden Daniels and they like Drake May, right? Those are the 2 guys they liked. What I understand though is like everybody liked Jaden Daniels. I mean, yes, there were some people talking about the character stuff and some off-field concerns a little bit about people around him. There were conversations like that. But, I'm pretty sure including many other people, wrote a version of the story of the fact that there were people in the league telling me and telling others. There were some people in the league who said that they would take Jaden Daniels first and not Caleb Williams. So he was highly thought of by everybody. I mean, this guy was a consensus top 2 pick in the NFL draft. So believing he is good does like, sorry, not to be dismissive, but I mean, are we really giving somebody credit for thinking Jaden Daniels was good? Like everybody thought he was good. Barb says that face mask call killed us. That could have been the difference against Dallas. Oh yeah, that was definitely BS. Definitely a BS call. I mean, who knows if it really actually cost them the game? And there's a lot more game to play after that. Brett says, has Evan Neal had a practice snap at guard? Put him next to Thomas for a run or 2. Not that we know of. Every time I ask that, I am told that they have not tried him at guard. We will meet with the assistant coaches tomorrow, October 4th. So last time we met with the coaches, I videoed Shea Tierney, the quarterback coach. You guys tell me, who do you want on camera tomorrow? Do you want Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach? Do you want Mike Groh, the receivers coach? That could be an interesting one. Do you want Jerome Henderson again, the secondary coach? That could be an interesting one. I think we want to hear from a lot of them, don't we? But let me know which one, if you see the full interview on YouTube, if you had to pick one, who it would be. Let's see if anybody answered that trivia question correctly. Looks like somebody checked in with the right answer. It was Kyler. Says Sean Bennett. That is correct. Sean Bennett is the answer. 5-yard carry in that game. He was He was the longest run in the Giants game against the Buccaneers in 1999. 5-yard run, the longest run for the Giants in that game. That was the last time, 1999, Sean Bennett, that the Giants had their longest rush as only 5 yards upfield. Kyler, remember to please send me your address and contact info, P.O. Box, your address, whatever you're comfortable with. DM me on Instagram at PL on NFL, and you have won a free bottle of Estate 98 coffee. Congratulations. Thank you for participating and for being here and supporting the channel. And we will have that mailed out to you forthwith. Want to remind you guys as we get back into the queue here for more questions. And this Falcons-Bucks game is a game, huh? So I want to remind you, we are brought to you here on the Believe Network and on the PL and NFL YouTube channel by MyBookie. MyBookie is celebrating its 10th year anniversary, and they're rolling out the red carpet for bettors. They have risk-free Thursdays. Hopefully you got a risk-free Mike Evans bet in, although obviously you didn't need it. No risk there. 2 touchdowns for Mike Evans in the first half. But, you know, MyBookie's got it all. There's the sports book. There's the casino. There's live betting. I love the props. You guys, I don't know if you've been following it, but my prop bets, my little Giants sprinkles, my NFL sprinkles, they've been hitting. Wan'Dale Robinson over receiving yards in Cleveland. Rico Dowdle over carries and over rush yards against the Giants. James Conner anytime TD for the Cardinals last week. I didn't hit on the Kyler Murray rush yards, but you're making some money on these prop bets that I'm picking, and that's with mybookie.ag. Go any link in any of my social media profiles, click on the link and use the promo code PATSPICKS, and that will get you 100% off your first deposit of $50 or more up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie, bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers, professionals, parents, whoever you are, however you drink your coffee. Estate 98 is a good, quick, delicious way to do it. No sugar, all natural. Takes me less than 10 seconds to make an iced coffee with Estate 98. It's great as an iced coffee. Only takes a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte out of it. Use estate98.com/Talkin Ball. You get a buy one, get one free deal on a jar of Estate 98. So one jar is about a half a month's worth of coffee. So one purchase using that code, estate98.com/Talkin Ball, one purchase there will get you a full month worth of coffee. And then also, of course, by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting, antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, there it is right there, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Some quick stats on this matchup. Seahawks on offense are averaging 25.5 points per game, 387 yards total, 280 passing yards, 106 on the ground. So not great rushing numbers. Giants only 15 points a game, 296 yards, 211 passing, and 85 rushing yards per game. Seahawks defense and Giants defense both allowing about 21 points a game. Seahawks are allowing 21.3. Giants are 21 on the money. Giants are allowing more yards, 311 to 283 for the Seahawks. And the Giants are allowing most of the extra yards in the passing game, 193 yards passing against per game versus 167.5 for the Seahawks. Rushing yards, they're both giving up around the same, 118 for the Giants, 116 for the Seahawks. Here's a number you need to pay attention to. Very big number to pay attention to, especially when it comes to betting this game. We just talked about MyBookie. If you live bet, which I love doing, I love live betting sporting events. So in the first half of games, the Seahawks are tied even with their opponents, 50-50 in their first 4 games. Interesting stat there. And the Giants almost are exactly tied as well. The Giants have actually outscored their opponents 45-44 in the first half of games, something I didn't even recognize until I looked at it. Now, so similar numbers in the first half, right? Seahawks have scored a little bit more points, but basically both tied at halftime through 4 weeks. Listen to this stat. In second halves, the Seahawks have outscored opponents 49-35 in second half. So they've given up some points, but they've scored at the almost exact same clip. 50 in the first half, 49 in the second half. The Giants have been outscored 40-15 in the second half of games through 4 weeks. So the Seahawks have scored 49, given up 35. The Giants have scored 15 and given up 40. Major key to this game, but especially when it comes to live betting this game. That is to say, even if it's a close game at half, I don't think it would be risky at all to hammer some plus odds on the Seahawks covering that large initial spread. By the way, I think this is partially, if not largely, if not completely due to Malik Nabers' injury. But this line that I saw, it opened at 5.5. Seahawks favored by, and it's already at 6.5. So let's see. I think that tells you a lot what you need to know. Brett, back to that Evan Neal thing for a second. I have asked Priscilla before about trying him at guard, especially to help the running game. Nothing doing there yet, but we'll continue to ask those questions. Elias says, speaking of draft picks, I don't know if you noticed, but Micah McFadden's name is everywhere on top of the league defense linebacker charts. Finally, a mid-round draft pick that is becoming a gem. I like Micah. I think Micah is what he is. Like, I think he's, for getting a player like him in the 5th round, I think encouraging. Micah's only played 60 or 59% of their snaps. He's not on the field as much as you would think he would be. So basically 6 out of every 10 snaps on the field. Hard-nosed. I think the best thing about him is he plays the same way through injuries. I mean, this guy has had his back act up, his neck, all these things that have knocked him out of games. He just keeps coming back into the game. Tough as nails. He could play for me any day. And so, as a draft pick who's contributing to your team, like I said, plays, 59% of the defensive snaps. I wouldn't say he's a gem. I think gems are a gem would be like Darius Slayton. Getting him in the 5th round would be like a 5th round gem to me. As not that their offense has been good, but he's led them in receiving for the last 5 years. You know what I mean? Let's see. D-Kid says, I didn't win. Kyler did as far as the Estate 98 trivia. But Sean friggin' Bennett, I know. This is the territory we're in. D-Kid says, what does that scoring disparity say about our halftime adjustments? Yes. No, listen. When we talk about where blame belongs for certain things, every situation, everything is different. Just like Daniel Jones was saying, hey, all these deep throws you're talking about, each play is a different play. He's right about that. So this is one area where this isn't just criticizing Dable to criticize the head coach. This is a head coaching deal. The fact that you could be a team in the first half like this, and in the second half falling off a cliff, that reflects that the halftime adjustments on one end are consistently out scheming and outperforming the halftime adjustments on the Giants end is one major takeaway from that. There's other context behind that. And, certainly, for example, the Giants would have more points in the second half if Devin Singletary didn't slide down, right? So technically they could have, 22 points in the second half instead of 15. But still, I think the point holds. That is on the head coach. Brett says, blitz McFadden and Pinnock this week and every week. Listen, Jason Pinnock's the best thing he does is blitz. That's his greatest strength. He's athletic. He can do other things, but you should be using him, as a blitzing attacking player. Brett says Bellinger is outplaying Theo Johnson for now. Give him snaps. Yeah, the problem, Brett, is they both commit holding penalties to call back plays. Bellinger can't get it out of his game. And I'm not talking about the face mask. I know that was the wrong call. But in Cleveland, they both did the same thing, committing holding penalties to call back positive plays. Chris Manhertz is the only usable tight end on this roster, but they don't have a dynamic passing threat as a tight end. It's killing them. Christopher says Daboll would join a new staff immediately if he was fired. I mean, what do you mean? So what would happen though is so a guy like him, I'm pretty sure he signed like a 5-year, $25 million contract when he got hired. So let's say he got fired after his 3rd year, he would still have 2 years and $10 million left on that deal. So what a guy like him would do, usually what you see is guys like that take, very low paid jobs on other staffs, and they join another staff and then they collect the remaining salary from their team. Like that's something Belichick does or used to do a lot in New England. He would bring back guys that got fired and they would be getting paid by their previous team, like Matt Patricia getting paid by the Detroit Lions or whatever. And then they go back and Belichick basically gets free labor, So that's probably what you would see. Brett wants to know if Turbo Miller will be called up with Singletary injured at running back. Hope so. That's a good question. I think he should be also to help the kick return game. You know what? I'll try to find that out on Friday, Brett. That's a really good question. I'm not sure. But I do believe Turbo deserves a shot. Listen, just like with Jalin Hyatt, no one is sitting here saying these guys are going to dominate for 4 quarters if they play. But let's just try to add some explosiveness into an offense that's got nothing going other than Nabers, who looks like he's probably not going to play. Rush 5 says, I don't buy Nabers' concussion. He dropped the ball and knocked himself out because he was too embarrassed for dropping another 4th down easy catch and losing the game. Rush, no, I can tell you he is very much dealing with an injury and a concussion. This is not fake. I know he should have caught the ball and it was disappointing, but this is an injury. And we should all just be hoping that he gets better for personal reasons too, not just, or primarily not football reasons, but for personal reasons. A2 says no running game, can't throw a 20-yard pass, 1 read quarterback. It's not all on Daniel Jones, but he's a huge part of the problem. Hirsch, what's going on? Jack points out that Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf will play in this game. They were just resting this practice. That's why they were limited. Thank you, Jack. Ken says, imagine how Saquon will feel if Sirianni gets fired and the Eagles miss the playoffs. Yeah, listen, I just wrote this for the Daily News today. The NFC East is, the Giants are in the basement, and it's almost like you're waiting to see, are the Eagles going to go in the tank with them? Is it going to be the Cowboys instead, and the Eagles are going to rescue themselves, But the Eagles defense stinks. They do not have much talent at all. Like, I always have praised Howie Roseman for the great work he's done, but this is not his finest moment. Their defense is bad. Their defense is very bad. They have a couple blue chippers, like, Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie corner, good player. Jalen Carter looks like a good player. But the Bryce Huff signing, Darius Slay, enough already. And just, the safeties aren't good enough. Linebackers, not, the investments there haven't panned out and aren't good enough. They're undersized edge rushers, right? Like Nolan Smith. It's just not there. Losing Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, both a big deal. But yeah, if the Eagles are playing games without Lane Johnson, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith, they're going to have a lot of trouble. So they need those guys back. They have some stars, but they need those stars. Hirsch says Jalen Milroe from Alabama will look good in blue next season. He's looked good so far this year. Mike says, why do you think the Giants ran the ball so poorly against Dallas despite their bad run defense? Mike, the Cowboys keyed on it. It was a specific emphasis of theirs to understand the Giants' scheme there and to kind of load the box and attack it and to run blitz in certain situations. Also, I talked to several Giants in the locker room after that game, and they said that there were miscommunications up front that resulted in them really like just always having something off. a guy missing a block, missing his assignment, not doing a double team when he should, not being able to hold a block long enough in a certain situation. It was just somebody different every play. They just felt like they, weren't communicating well enough in order to resolve those situations on the fly. Also, let's be honest, like obviously their pass protection on the offensive line, especially including because they've had, more guys in, more tight ends, running backs helping with the blocking and pass protection, heavier personnel, more 12 personnel than last year, that kind of thing. The pass protection has been better, but I always hesitate when people say the offensive line so much better because they do not push people around on the offensive line. They don't. Like in the run game. That is where you need to set a tone, and they are not able to do it. Brett says Giants have 10 days of built up anger from Dallas. Surprise win. Brett, I don't think so. I actually gave out the Seahawks covering even the 6.5 point spread as one of my 3 best bets with my bookie, along with I love the Vikings covering in London against the Jets, who look like they're about to combust. And I also like the Bills covering at the Texans. I know that's a strange one to kind of stick my neck out for, but it's -1 there, I believe, at the moment, Texans. And the Texans are 0-4 against the spread. And the Bills are not as bad as the Ravens made them look. And the Texans don't run the ball the way that the Ravens do. I think that game, especially with Josh Allen in it, just much closer, and much different than I think people are maybe thinking it's going to be coming out of last week's results. But no, I don't think the Giants are going to win this game, Brett. I think it's going to be ugly. Mike says DJ not being able to throw a deep bomb with timing and accuracy might be the top issue with this offense. So yeah, if you guys saw it, I'm not sure, but Daniel Jones told me and a few other reporters there. I asked him the question about the deep ball. I said, listen, Daniel, we know you played efficient last game, but you had the underthrown deep balls. When you looked back at it, are there physical issues there? He said, no, nothing physical is preventing anything. And he told me and some of the other reporters at his locker on Wednesday that he felt like he had overthrown some deep balls in the previous games. And so he didn't use the word overcorrecting, but he essentially described that he was overcorrecting in order to try to give his receivers a chance at the ball. So like a fighting chance at those deep balls rather than missing them over top. And what happened is by trying to give them a chance at the ball, he ended up underthrowing them. So, obviously concerning that he's not able to hit the target, right? Because that's just what you need is for him to hit the target. And that's time on task stuff too, right? Like you do that in practice enough. That's supposed to be your rapport with the receivers. And Daniel Jones typically throws a good deep ball, like throughout his career has thrown a good deep ball. So discouraging, frustrating, something that hopefully gets corrected. And Jalin Hyatt feels like they can correct. Steven says, seeing the Lions game and how the Seahawks are, I can't help to think in 22, I thought we were going to run it down their throat and they beat us up. You can see how they build over years after sucking for 4 years, and we build 0. Yeah, that's a good point. You can see how they have progressed and built what they have. Mike says the first Nabers completion could have been a touchdown if Daniel Jones ripped it earlier because the safety was so far away and Nabers beat the corner badly. Yes, totally agree, Mike. Should have led him with that throw, should have driven it in there and given him a catch and run opportunity. Agree. Huge missed opportunity. Steven says, Pat, I asked you once about drafting a quarterback, and is it more the situation or talent that makes the development? I should have asked with McAdoo wanting Mahomes. What do you think he would be if we drafted him? What would Mahomes be? I think, I think being with Andy Reid and marrying Reid with Mahomes has been like obviously a major part. And not only that, but also his ability to sit there, learn from Alex Smith. He was on a team that was already a pretty good team, right? Like that was a playoff team. And then he rested for a year, plays that last game of the regular season. Smith plays the playoffs. And then Mahomes steps in on a team that already has a good amount of talent. And so it would not have looked the same, and it would not have taken off the same with Mahomes here. That would not have been, the same thing. And so I think those ingredients were a huge part of Mahomes' early story, right? Now, I will say this. Mahomes was drafted in 2017, okay? If you get Mahomes in 2017, you have Odell Beckham Jr. still on the roster, right? Then let's say you end up drafting Saquon Barkley the next year anyway, or Quentin Nelson or whatever. Now you have Odell Beckham Jr. still in his prime. You have Saquon Barkley. You have Patrick Mahomes, right? Now we're talking. So potential there for sure. Would he have helped the Giants fix? Would he have overcome their offensive line problems early enough if they didn't get him fixed? I don't know. Could have been a situation where he was getting hit too much and not developing properly because of that. So you never know. I think there's a reason certain organizations succeed and others fail. I think it's easy to say that. I think it would be fair to say that without the same conditions and in a different spotlight and without the advantage of Reed, it wouldn't have looked the same, although McAdoo does know how to call a game and develop quarterbacks. So it would have been interesting to see. Brett says biggest failure so far was the Gano debacle with Washington in week 2. What replaces that? Brett, I mean, this is not the same thing, but if Nabers is out a longer period of time because of the concussion, that would be obviously the thing that replaces it as far as another reason why the organization or this season is going in the tank. Hopefully that doesn't come to pass. I think Daboll's comment about technique and fundamentals being where the team has noticeably improved so far could be up there as far as like ridiculousness of the 2024 season. Just that answer was absurd. Barbara says, hi, Pat. I just watched the Mets win and advance. Woohoo. Yeah, some excitement, some playoff baseball, Mets and Yankees here in the New York, New Jersey area. Matthew says Evan Neal is apparently a good run blocker. Yeah, he's better run blocker than pass blocker. Why don't they play him as an extra blocker in running situations? If the tight ends are just going to be blockers anyway, why not use Neal? I agree. I'm going to ask it again on Friday. We've talked about that. You're absolutely right, Matt. I see this the same way, as far as at least a way to get this guy reintegrated into the operation. Kyler says, damn, we could have seen this coming after we were all excited and coach of the year. He seems to not care as much as before, kind of like Judge. Seemed like Judge wanted to get fired. We suck. Well, the difference was Judge and Gettleman just, couldn't work together. Gettleman was just a ridiculously bad general manager. This is Daboll and Shane as the team kind of, fizzling. It's like a little bit of a different end of the line type thing, but really just comes down to not playing, not picking enough good players and not winning enough games and burning a lot of bridges on your staff last year that have put you in the position you're in now. Diggy points out, I thought Singletary got almost a third of what they would have paid Barkley. A third? I mean, they still ended up giving him like, what was it? 12 million base salary, 16.5 over 3 years. So 16.5 over 3 years. That ends up coming out to, 5 and change per season. So it's not, it's not a third. It's not half of the Saquon money either, but it is I wasn't saying it was comparable to Saquon's money. We know it's not comparable to Saquon's money. What I was saying was it was actually a healthy chunk of change for a running back for a team that was saying they don't value the position. Like, in other words, Joe Shane was saying during Hard Knocks that it was a very deep running back class. They could get value there. And then they ended up signing Singletary for over $5 million a year, basically in the first 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So I was just pointing out that they did make a legitimate investment in the position. It wasn't like they totally, totally ignored investing in it. Let's see. Barbara says she wanted the Giants to sign Baker Mayfield before 2023. Look at him ball out now. And interestingly enough, Baker Mayfield was the first person in that GQ interview to trash Daniel Jones publicly. And now it's become a trend throughout the league among players to mock Daniel Jones. Baker Mayfield was the first one to do it. This is Hyatt's last big chance, says Barbara. Agreed. Intel says, I don't care if the Giants play the University of Michigan. We are not winning with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is the problem. Michigan, by the way, playing against the University of Washington on Saturday. So that's an exciting weekend of football. Wink Martindale with the Wolverines at Husky Stadium on Saturday. And then Brian Daboll and the Giants at Lumen Field against the Seahawks on Sunday. Intel says, great interview with Benny Fowler. Thank you, Intel. I don't know if everyone's tuning in, but Benny is bringing it on these First Down with Benny Fowlers every week. We review the NFL action. We talk about the entire league. We get into some Giants stuff, but Benny won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and the Broncos. He's so smart, so insightful, and still very in touch with the league, knows the game, knows what a good locker room looks like, knows it all. He is a great asset to what we do here on Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. And yes, please do, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, tune into those episodes, First Down with Benny Fowler, or here on the channel. You can watch them here on the YouTube channel, PL and NFL. First Down with Benny Fowler every week. We usually record on Mondays, and it's published by either Monday evening or Tuesday midday at the latest, recapping the week's games. So I think you'll love that and enjoy that. Thank you, Intel, for saying that. The one thing Benny said that stood out this week was the idea that he thinks Bryce Young will end up on the San Francisco 49ers next year. And he thinks that will be a perfect way for the former number 1 overall pick to kind of be rehabilitated as a QB and to develop properly under good coaching, with Brock Purdy remaining the starter. So I thought that was a really kind of interesting take, hot take, smart take, a lot of what you'll get. Also, great interview with Dr. David Chow on my channel as well about some of the major injuries. And he's also really good, always good, the pro football doc at Diagnosing. Man, I don't know how the Buccaneers ended up giving the football back to the Falcons here. But Young-Ho Koo is about to attempt a field goal to try to send this game to overtime in Atlanta. Someone catch me up on what the heck the Bucs did here. Kyler says, if Jalin Hyatt goes off for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, is that more good on Hyatt or bad on Daboll? Because we could ask, do you know what the F you are doing, Baldy? Yeah, I think, listen, production would be a good thing. So even if it happens, even if it proves Daboll was wrong the first 4 weeks for not playing him and that was preventing them from being explosive, I still think you'll take the production, But like I said, it could end up being production based on it could be production that reflects the Giants' offense is progressing. It also could end up being production from a player who's not going to be staying on the field as much, and could he become a trade chip? I think the most likely scenario is if he explodes, has a great game, then Daboll and Shane say, hey, look at our draft pick. We've done the right thing with him, kind of slow playing this and developing him to the point where he was ready for this. Nabers comes back healthy. Now you have the 3 draft picks out there, and then Slayton, the veteran, who's a free agent next spring anyway, ends up being the guy who gets traded before the deadline, right? That's probably the path to what would happen if he ends up, if he ends up doing that and balling out. Ken Peters says there is big Slayton to Chiefs buzz. It obviously makes a lot of sense. And they have made trades before. I wrote about that in the Daily News several days ago. And I do think there's a very good chance Darius Slayton is not on the Giants by the end of this NFL trade deadline. Let's see. Young Hoku about to attempt a 52-yard field goal here to try to send this game to overtime. Looks like they took a delay of game penalty before attempting this. And Young Ho is straight through the uprights to send this to overtime. Again, what the hell did the Bucs do to give them the ball back? All right. Go to my bookie if you want a live bet. I'm telling you, my bookie. Intel says, I don't care if the New York Giants are playing the University of Kentucky. We are not winning with Daniel Bones. We have a serious quarterback problem. Brett says, if they trade Hyatt, I want Tony back. He was very talented. I think we screwed him up. He didn't play much early when he wasn't injured. Yeah, just not a lot of commitment there. He's never coming back. Joey B, what's up? Great to see you. Joey B says, Pat, are you going to come to my comedy show next week at Reds? What's the date and time, Joey B? I'll see if I can. Got to get to one of them sooner or later, no doubt, because you're always a huge supporter here. Let's see. Ken says Dak Prescott, 9th year, $60 million, a year, 2 playoff wins. DJ, 1 playoff win over Cousins, and we have an out, so I like our position. That's interesting, Ken, because, listen, you can debate this, and you make some good points there. But it's like Dak Prescott was an MVP runner-up last year. He was the second, and basically there was Lamar Jackson, and then Dak Prescott was the second. So I know he only has the 2 playoff wins, but my goodness, the Cowboys have had the top offense in the NFL 2 of the last 3 years, So it's not, those are things are not comparable, right? Am I being unfair there? I don't know. Brett says, hey, Joey, we were talking about how the Giants are going to kick the dog shit out of Seattle because they're still pissed, or I was. Yes, you were, Brett. Yes, you were. Brett says, Pat, do you know if the players listen to this? Tell them I said they're Nancy's if they don't, and to hit somebody. This is, I think, a lot of content for players to digest, listening to football podcasts in full. I don't think that's something a lot of guys do. Sometimes they'll ask about stuff, be curious about what I'm talking about or what you guys are asking. But yeah, I'll give it to them. I'll give it to them in the locker room when I'm handing them some boom chaga. I'll be telling them that Brett told them to get into Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard. Brett says, don't tell McFadden that he's getting hyped up. He's a lunatic. I like it. Ken says, do you think the Giants should attempt to extend Ojulari now? If so, what money do you think it would take? He's still only 24, stats similar to Thibodeau, playing 40% of his snaps. Yeah, Ken, I don't know about that. It's a good question. I think his ability to I think you have to wait on Azeez as far as staying healthy the rest of this season before you would entertain something like that. His name keeps coming up as a guy who would be a trade chip, wasn't drafted by this regime. He is a guy who has really struggled to stay on the field, so could be a candidate for them to try to capitalize for a draft pick. But also, could be a classic case of, people ask me, what could they get for Slayton, right? Could they get a 5th round pick for Slayton, or would it be more like a 6th? You know what I mean? Guys always draw less in these trades than you think they would. But Kadarius was what, a 3rd and a 5th, or a 3rd and a 6th, I think. That was a 1st round talent. So the Bucs fumbled. Okay. Yeah, man. I don't know what they were doing giving the ball back. Jeez. Brett says, how about Sterling Shepard, Pat? He should have been playing more for us. Management is questionable. Another situation of a player being wronged by this regime. And just like Saquon Barkley, Shep could have burnt the house down last year and decided to play the good soldier. Kyler says, why won't they even try to put Neal at right guard? They don't move anyone, and I think Neal is the best run blocker on the team. Grandpa Roten is the weakest link right now. Grandpa Roten. What a nickname. What a nickname. Yeah. Listen, they got to figure something out in the run game. Let's see. D says, I saw Rutgers beat Washington. Washington is not good. I was at the Rutgers game when we beat them. Okay, good info. Brett says, pride, Kyler, and pride will get you hurt. D Pat points out that Young Ho Koo is a Ridgewood, New Jersey guy. No doubt. Yeah, shout out there. Bergen County. El Gigante says, hey, Pat, not really sold with Daboll, and as I don't see the quarterback whisperer. As Rex Ryan said, Daboll was sold that he could turn Daniel Jones into Josh Allen. And we have seen Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen, and I think it's worth wondering. Yes, Brian Daboll deserved and got credit in Buffalo for the offensive success they had there. But how special really is Josh Allen, right? He is clearly a rare talent, right? So. All right, let's see. Man, exciting game here. Exciting chat here as well. Would be remiss if I didn't speak quickly about Geno Smith and how it's just, in the vein of Daniel Jones. I mean, not the same player, not the same situation at all. But we were talking earlier about the expectations of what Daboll's supposed to do at quarterback. Elegante brings it back up here. And I think, Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, whether they're Baker Mayfield, whether they're rehabilitation situations, developments of quarterbacks that were better in one spot versus another, whether it's, oh no, touchdown Falcons to end it. Holy cow. Oh, what a brutal loss for the Bucs. Drama on Thursday Night Football. Wow. Mets win in the playoffs. Falcons with a walk-off overtime touchdown. Damn. Good red helmets, too, on the Falcons. Cool to see. All right. But, yeah, so talking again about the quarterback situations and the development there, I think that, it's on Daboll to get the most out of Daniel Jones. They re-signed him. They paid him. He's their guy now. Got to make it work. But also, Geno Smith just provides hope for Daniel Jones, personally, or guys in that situation. You can find a fresh start. You can go somewhere else and, maybe in a different market with different pressures, things like that. You can find a different way to operate, to excel, to hone your process, to rely and let your talent thrive, right? Like that's what you see with Geno Smith. You can tell everything's lighter on him. He still has a lot of pressure on. He's a starting NFL quarterback, right? Playing in one of the hardest, divisions year in and year out in football. But he just breathes differently, he moves differently. He plays quarterback at a high level and is leading the NFL in passing, entering this Thursday night game, at least, was leading the NFL in passing yards coming in. Was memorable a couple of years ago being in Seattle and hearing and asking Geno about kind of what he's shown after he left New York and him giving a shout out to Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo for believing in him. It's fascinating to see what happened with him, not only with the Jets, but with the Giants here, everybody getting fired because he got put in the game. And yet look at the quarterback he is and has become and how the Giants basically, ran him out of town in so many ways. Barbara says Todd Bowles strikes again with the defense there in overtime. Brett says, what's up with Mike Kafka? More money, less work. That's a fair summarization there, Brett. Interesting storyline of this week's game as well. Thanks for bringing that up. Is Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator, of course, was going to be the offensive coordinator on Mike McDonald's staff in Seattle, the rookie head coach coming over as the defensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens. But the Giants blocked that. And so they blocked Kafka from leaving. and they give him a promotion, but they take away play calling from him. So obviously that was an optics-driven decision in order to avoid losing all three coordinators, which is what was going to happen with Martindale leaving of his own accord, McGahee getting fired, and Kafka trying to leave as well. So Mike Kafka now the OC without the play calling responsibilities, sitting upstairs and from best I can tell, IDing personnel. Because he hasn't really gotten into detail about what else he is doing up there game plan wise. Barbara says, how many playoff wins does Geno Smith have? 0 or 1? I'm going to look that up. I don't know the answer to that. Let's see. Geno Smith's postseason numbers. Yeah, Geno just played one postseason game, lost to the San Francisco 49ers last year. Through 71% completion, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a lost fumble in that game. So no playoff wins for Geno Smith, but playing at a very high level and is, definitely flourishing as a player. Brett says, my nephew's on the Yankees, but it's the pre-college Yankees. They played the Mets too tonight. He's driving home. Pretty cool. Very cool. Yeah, Barbara, I didn't realize that either on Geno. Thanks for asking that. A2 says, great ending to the game. Wow, yeah, Falcons, Bucks. Electric there, Thursday Night Football. Much different than Giants-Cowboys. The field goal fest from the Giants in that game. High scoring here, electric, overtime thrills. Fascinating to see. Guys, this has been awesome. These chats are always great. Remember, we are brought to you by MyBookie. Use the promo code PatsPicks, and you will get a 100% match of $50 or more, up to $1,000 on your first deposit, plus a $10 casino chip. Go to the link in any of my social media profiles or bios. Click on it, use the PatsPicks promo code, and get that exclusive offer now. You could have live bet this game. Like I said, your live bet for Sunday with MyBookie is that second half bet. The Seahawks have outscored opponents 49-35 in second halves. The Giants have been outscored 40-15. Like I said, Devin Singletary could have gotten the end zone in Cleveland, so you can make that 40-22. But bottom line is Giants have been outscored in the second halves. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. Use the discount code TalkinBall25 or the QR code on your screen. Here's the product right here, and you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. 10 seconds to make a nice coffee, a minute for a hot coffee or latte. Go to estate98.com/talkaball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. Barbara, A2, Brett, D, Pat, everybody who joined in, thank you so much. Thank you to the super chatters who contributed to the chat financially tonight. Chris, Daniel, Chris again, Chris 3 times, D-Kit, Chris with the MVP performance. Thank you so much for supporting. And remember, the best way to support us is to support our sponsors. Open an account on MyBookie if you're a sports bettor. Go try Boom Chaga with the code. Go try Estate 98. That keeps us running. That keeps us going. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game. Remember to check back after the Seahawks game from the press box, Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard, from the press box from Seattle. I will come out of the Giants locker room and get you guys information first. D-Kit says, you the man, Pat. You are the man, D-Kit. Matthew, right on cue, says, are you doing postgame on Sunday or do you have to make a flight? Matthew, I'm actually going to fly out on Monday morning, so I am doing postgame from Seattle on Sunday. So you can catch me postgame from Seattle. Looking forward to that. Talkin Ball postgame live. See you guys there after a Giant surprise win or after a discouraging defeat on the road. It'll be a long trip either way. Giants hope to make it worth it. Will be tough if, as it looks now, Nabers does not play. Opportunity for Jalin Hyatt and a chance for Daniel Jones to plant his flag and to turn this season around. Thank you for being here. See you guys next time on Talkin Ball Live with Pat Leonard.